Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you about injuries. Injuries are a part of working out as well, right? Sometimes we get a lot of advice on nutrition or cardio or the best exercises and workout methods, but we don't get, when we encounter an injury, we don't really get that knowledge on what it takes to help ourselves in terms of injury, right? So what I want to go through is just the two major types of injuries that occur, and pretty much like 80 or 90% of all injuries occur within these two types, and how you can treat them and how you can kind of recover so you can stay on track to reaching your progress and hitting your goals. All right, so the first one is a strain, okay, and that's S-T as in Tom, R-A-I-N. With a strain, that usually occurs to muscles and tendons. So if someone says, you know, I strained a muscle or I pulled a muscle, that's usually commonly referred to. You know, a lot of people say I pulled a muscle, but that's really a strain, okay? Now, strains have three different grades or degrees of strains. Obviously, a grade 1 strain is a really light strain. So you might pull a muscle and then the pain is, you know, it's acute, it's immediate, but then it goes away. And there's no swelling, no redness or anything like that. That's usually a grade 1 strain. You can keep working out, or the next couple of days it healed up and you're ready to continue on with your workout. So you don't have to worry about it. A grade 2 strain occurs where it's more significant. It's more like an intermediate injury where you might have a little bit of redness or swelling or pain or inflammation occurring at that region. That's a grade 2 strain, and again, it usually happens to a muscle or a tendon. Okay, so if it's like, you know, you pull the muscle but it's hurting for you know, a couple of days or something like that, that's probably going to be a grade 2 strain, right? You can still move the region and stuff like that, but it's just kind of, it could be maybe torn at a microscopic level, your muscle or your tendon, but it's going to heal properly over time, and it shouldn't set you back by too long. Now, a grade 3 strain is the most significant and the highest degree that you can get, and that's usually a partial tear or even a full tear, or what we call a rupture, which is the same thing as a tear. And this occurs in your tendon or your muscle, and obviously most of the time you don't want, it's extreme pain obviously, but you don't want to move that region, or you can't move that area that's particularly strained at a grade 3 level. A lot of swelling occurs, inflammation, a lot of blood flow and fluid goes to the area. It's extremely painful, and a lot of the times you have to get, you know, medical attention and professional attention from that. With this one here, it's really important that, you know, you take the steps to recover properly immediately after an injury occurs. Even if, whether it's a grade 1, 2, or 3, especially 2 and 3, you want to take the proper steps to recover. And I'll talk about the recovery process that you can do, or your trainer, or someone in the gym or whatever, they can do that for you immediately, okay? Now let's go to the second type of injury, which is a sprain. And obviously, commonly you guys hear, I sprained my ankle, you know, or something like that, and or sprained my wrist. A sprain occurs to a bone, right, and also to ligaments. So sprain with a P refers to bones or ligaments, and it's the same thing. There's 3 different grades, grade 1 being the lowest. Most of the time, a grade 1 sprain is just where, like, if you haven't played a sport in a while, or actually if you haven't exercised for a while and you want to run really quickly to go catch something and your foot gives out on you a little bit, you probably sprained your ankle, it gave out on you, you twisted it or something like that. That's usually a grade 1. You can kind of walk it off or something like that and you'll be fine. Grade 2 is just like very similar to a grade 2 strain that occurs at the muscle, right? Grade 2 sprain will be more like you probably don't want to walk on that area or use that area that much. Swelling can occur. It's more extreme in terms of pain, but you know, you can still feel like, okay, it's not that serious, I can overcome it, but it's definitely more serious than just a minor injury, okay? And the major injury that occurs at your joint or ligament or bone is going to be a grade 3 sprain, and that's usually either a fracture or, you know, a partial or even a full break in the bone, okay? And that requires obvious medical attention as well. Now, The protocol to help you immediately after an injury occurs, if the injury is serious enough, right? So if you just kind of twist your ankle and you walk it off, you don't need to follow these principles. But let me give you a real life example. One of my clients actually hyperextended, which is more of a it was a grade 2 strain of his shoulder tendon, or I'm sorry, his elbow tendon. And what he did was he was boxing and he missed or something, and he overreached, and he kind of pulled that tendon out really far, and he hyperextended it. Well, it turned red and then it turned purple and blue all in like a very short amount of time. And he was in extreme pain. He couldn't move it and anything like that, but he didn't necessarily tear it. It did take him, I'll talk about the recovery time, but it took him a couple of weeks to fully recover from that injury. But what I did immediately was that I had him rest his arm. So first of all, you protect it first. And we call this, the mnemonic we use is PRICE, right? You protect whatever the injury is, you protect it first. Make sure, your area is clear. Nobody's going to bump into you that's working out next to you, that you're not in a place where you're going to injure it. So if you're doing a certain exercise that you're in a tough position or compromised position, then you want to try to kind of stop doing everything and protect that area first. And then rest it, right? And rest goes kind of along with what you do outside of the gym, but you want to rest that area. You don't want to say, oh, I can move through it, it hurts, but I'm going to keep pushing. No, you want to rest that area so that way no more damage can occur to the region. Now, the next thing you want to do is ice it. Ice is always used immediately after an injury occurs, no matter what type of injury it is. It's never going to be heat. Heat will inflame it and send a lot of blood to that region, which will make it swell. So heat can be used later for therapy, but right now, or immediately after that injury occurs, you want to put ice on it. Ice will slow down blood flow. It'll prevent a lot of the swelling, and it'll also help with the pain, and it'll help with like blood clotting and things like that. That will help prepare you or set the stage for a recovery from that injury. Okay, so with that client, back to him, as soon as that injury occurred and I saw that he was in pain, I had him sit down, hold his arm, and make sure he was protecting his arm and no one was bothering him or saying, hey, let me see it, why don't you move it, let me check you out. I said, I'll be right back. Went down, got him a big thing of ice, and we went ahead and put the ice on him. The C next is what we did is we compressed it. So you compress it and put pressure there to, again, prevent a lot of blood flow there, a lot of swelling and inflammation, and also to help that person kind of limit the movement of that region so no more damage occurs. And then E stands for elevation. So when he was in a good enough position to either have his arm elevated or sitting on something, I wouldn't recommend having him do this basically because of where the injury occurred. I wouldn't have his arm over his head, but I had him sitting in a place where his arm was elevated and just kind of keeping the blood flow away from that, rushing down to that region. And this can happen in any of the areas. So whether it's a sprain or a strain, you want to protect, rest, ice, compress, and elevate that area. Okay, now if it's a grade 3 and it's excruciating, there's no doubt you're going to get medical attention. Someone's going to probably call an ambulance or something like that, but we're hoping it doesn't get that far. But it's good to know this because if you are training, you need to know what the protocol is to help you set the stage for recovery. A lot of the times people don't recover quickly, or they don't recover properly from injuries because they don't know what to do. They say, oh, it really hurts really badly, but I'll just go home and I'll work out tomorrow, and then more damage occurs to that area. Okay, so this is something that I think is good for you to know. Now, what do you do, in terms of like getting yourself back into your workouts after your recovery process? Well, a good rule of thumb based on, and this is just kind of a rule of thumb, but based on the injury, a grade 1 sprain or strain, if it's severe enough, it needs to take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks to recover. Okay, now a grade 2 will take anywhere from, upwards of 4 to 8 weeks. It just depends on how serious the injury is and how well you initiated your immediate response to it in terms of protecting it and things like that. Now, grade 3s are the ones that take 12 weeks and even longer, and it's always based on the extent of the damage. If you like tear a ligament in your knee, it's going to take a lot longer than 12 weeks to recover and to get back, but you can do certain things like ride a bike or do limited movements or work other muscle groups or areas while you're to help you accomplish your goal while you're recovering from that injury. So I think it's good to know that again, with grade 1 sprains or strains, you're looking at maybe 2 weeks at the most. If it's severe enough, it could take up to 4 weeks in some cases. Grade 2 will be 4 to 8 weeks, and the grade 3 will be 8 to 12 and sometimes longer. And I think that's it. It's just really good. This is a component that a lot of trainers don't talk about, and a lot of people don't have information on as far as injuries, but they are a part of, you know, fitness related goals and things like that. So hopefully this is something that you can add to your repertoire, and it'll help you along the way, because about 80 to 90% of injuries are going to be strains or sprains. And then you get some freak accident ones that are just, you know, complete amputations, for example, but I don't want to scare you. All right, so hope this video helped you. I hope it was informative. Very, you know, simple, but it can take you a long way when that event may occur. Or if you see someone else in the gym get hurt, you kind of know what you can do to help them. Please share this with someone who you think will benefit from it, of course, and thank you for supporting and watching this video. Talk to you next time.